Hey everybody, and welcome back to Super Fun Time. It's been about a week since I made my last video, if I remember correctly. Been very busy. It's summertime, as I think really good. One was kind of disappointing, and one was almost like unreadable. So we'll get into that. And of course, I've read a bunch of other stuff. I think I'm going to start there. I think I'm going to start. What I'm not going to talk about the most is today I read 2 more chapters of Future's End on my digital iPad type thing, which isn't an iPad, but you have some weird stuff going on with Firestorm, and yeah, I don't really know what I feel about it. I feel it's engaging while I'm reading it, but I'm not sure if it has lasting power. But maybe it does. I think I will know further as I go on. They also reference something called the Earth 2 War, which I'm unfamiliar with. In fact, that just sort of came up. Like, I guess this Earth 2 War has been the backdrop of what's going on. And it's not really a cause of confusion, but it is like, I'd like to read about it. I'd like to know what the Earth 2 War was. I read Forever Evil, which was pretty good. So yeah, like right now, if you've read it, and mild spoilers if you didn't, it's like Firestorm is kind of like going insane. It's like 2 people, right? Firestorm, there's like the guy who's inside him, who's like some college student. And then there's like some other guy who's, I don't know too much about this incarnation of Firestorm, but it's like he had a date, so he was late to getting to a place when the Justice League call went out, and Green Arrow died. They had a big funeral for him. I thought they were going to go for like Brother Eye attacking all the superheroes while they were at Crete. That would have been good, but then it just doesn't happen. And the story is so far is mostly about Firestorm going insane, and the 2 people who make up Firestorm being at odds with each other. And I'm a little, Firestorm, I really don't know that well. Since I've come back to comics, I've discovered him, Crisis on Infinite Earths, he was in there. Then in, is it Blackest Night or is it Darkest Night? I forget, the Green Lantern zombie story. So he was in those, and they were like 2 different people. There's like the Firestorm from the 80s, who is like, I guess it's an older professor guy and a younger guy. Then the one in, not Forever Evil, but Blackest Night, is it an Asian girl and a young boy of some kind? I forget. And then this one is like some guy who I don't even, it's been so long since I read the beginning of this. It's like some white guy and some African-American student who's like a prodigy. He's like on a scholarship. And so like, like the whole thing is like, if you're trapped in somebody's head and you don't have control, don't be antagonizing him, like you got to kind of like have a little bit of guile. It's like, don't say, oh, you're responsible for Green Lantern dying because you had a date or something. And yeah, like wait until you can separate, and safety first. You got to think these things through. So yeah, it's like kind of a weird kidnap thing going on now. And I don't know very much about Firestorm. I have no idea how long Firestorm can be Firestorm. If the 2 people, I know like in the TV show, they have to come, they have to be merged every so often, or there'll be a massive explosion, I guess. I don't know how it works in the comics. So yeah, I'm reading that a little bit, and I'll probably will put that aside because I got some other things to read on what it was. And I was the art. A lot of times I can get past art I don't like, but in this case, Spider-Man being one of my favorite characters, I would like more, less anime type stuff. I don't know exactly what was going on. It was just weird art to me. It wasn't overly annoying, but it was enough that it took me out of the book somewhat. This book is really thick, and oh yeah, and I've also read Superior Spider-Man, which is my favorite of all the Dan Slott stuff I've read. Superior Spider-Man is my favorite, and so I've read enough Dan Slott stuff to be able to follow along. And once I started reading it, the Green Goblin is Harry Osborn, and he merges with not Venom, Carnage. He merges with Carnage to become the Red Goblin, and then they fight. And in some ways, it's some crooks. Then the government comes. They want them to like work on some sort of antidote to a nuclear cloud or something like that. And then some Russian agents or some bad guys show up, and they want to get this secret. It's a lot like Swamp Thing. Like if you remember back when I did the early Swamp Thing story, where Alec Holland is like working on some government thing, and the government doesn't take care of their scientists very well. If you're a government scientist working on top secret stuff, the government's just going to leave you out in a barn someplace, and they'll like have a police car drive by twice a day. So at least in these stories. And so like that's what happens here. But there's more than one scientist, but somehow Hank Pym gets separated. He's in a separate lab from the other guys. So then he gets his Ant-Man formula working, and he rescues everybody. That's the thing going on here. And they go to another world that's sort of like the negative zone, but I think it's called the N universe, I guess. This is he's waiting for an invitation to the Catwoman and Batman's thing, and he's holding some guy hostage. And it's a really good story. It's a short 8-page story. So, I don't know, I've heard like mixed reviews on it. I think the Joker story alone is worth it. I haven't read the other. That pertains directly to 6/13/21/8. The new comic book day from last Wednesday. We've got one coming up. I'm just going to like kind of go through them and give my hot takes on them. And I'm going to start with, I've got them arranged more or less like what I really hated to like what I really liked. And I really only hated one, and I'm sad that I hated it. And that is Thor #1. Thor is one of my favorite characters, but the story might have been okay. It might have, it's a #1, so you give it a. But look at this art. I mean, maybe it's not the art that I used, because like I thought the end of the story happened before it did, and it made sense to end there. But then like suddenly he's fighting Namor, and I didn't get. And then like look at them fighting there. I mean, in a sense, I admire this, but. Loki, but as soon as he meets Loki, he's gonna kill him, and Loki's gonna trick him in some way. And but it's on the it's a starting of a new thing, so you can kind of forgive it, and from that perspective. But the art was just, I could not. Let me just show you the art for her, because it was just so weird. It was like that Edward Munch painting, The Scream. I understand that she's sick, that she has cancer, but what's going on here? So yeah, I don't know. Oh, Jane Foster, that's her name. Is like, did the hammer give her cancer? I didn't read the run with her. Like I say, I've only been reading comic books for, I guess, nearly 2 months now. I don't know. So that's Thor. It's like a 2 on the Venom scale. I'm sad I didn't enjoy it. I wanted to enjoy it more. But I still have the Walt Simonson books to go through. And what's that one? The God Killer? I've got that to go through. So I've got some good Thors. The next one is also a bit of a disappointment. It's I really like Plastic Man. I don't know why I like Plastic Man. I didn't really grow up reading it, but I think because I read a couple of Justice Leagues from the 80s or 90s, and Superman Doomsday. That's like one of my favorite Doomsday Superman books. And like the JLA get totally trashed by Doomsday, who's I think is being controlled by Hank Henshaw. And it was like the best. And I'm vamping. And come on, where are you, Plastic Man? I just saw you earlier. So yeah, then there's like all this stuff with this was I did really enjoy it, because in this book is where Superman gets PTSD from his death. Okay, I guess I'm not gonna find it. Come on, where are you, my buddy? Anyways, like this book really made me enjoy Plastic Man, just because of everything you can do with the shape of him, and I don't know. You know, all the creature that this one kind of ends where the first one begins, and then it was like a flashback. But you know, and I kind of am enjoying the. And I don't, you know, I'm not. Yeah, this is Flash War, Part 1. I'm not sure if this is a 4-part series, but I was kind of hopeful. It's like with Plastic Man #2. My prediction is I will like it a lot more. It will like ramp up, and so yeah, this is like a good 7.5, 8 maybe. No, not 8, but you know, 7 point things about it. So when I saw it on the shelf, I grabbed it. I'm pretty sure this came out last Wednesday, and if it didn't, I'm sorry, but this was a very good read. This one was another one. I didn't enjoy the art quite as well. Everything was kind of like, I don't know. I mean, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. It just, there's something faded about it. There's something like muted, something. Yeah, here's a good scene as you see like Reed Richards. So, but yeah, this was a very good story, a very good character building story. You have some interaction between Reed and Dr. Doom. And, you know, I read the early Iron Mans from like 2015, you know, after the Secret War. And I was really intrigued by Dr. Doom's character because he wanted to do good, and you know, Reed had healed his face and whatnot, and then he became the infamous Iron Man while I wasn't reading, and I don't know what that's all about. But here he seems more like classic Doom. Like when I was reading the Iron Man books, he was like trying to convince Tony that he wanted to be a good guy now, and I thought that was intriguing. Here feels like he's devolving back a little bit more into. This one is a 9 on the Venom scale. Is the Man of Steel really up to anything about this? And again, the new issue comes out on Wednesday. So if I recall correctly, Batman makes an appearance in this one, because Green Lantern was in issue 2, and then Supergirl is in this one, and you know, just like appearances, and then you get that firefighter again from issue 1 is in here, and lots of bad stuff happens to Superman, and like Supergirl teams up with him, and I just really, this is like the best one of the runs so far. We also get more information on what happened to Lois and John, Lois Lane and John. We still don't know exactly, but we get more information on that. So yeah, if you're following this, this is a very high, this is like the best of all the stuff I got last week, 6/13. I will be getting the new issue when it comes out on Wednesday. Very excited about it. And yeah, very. So then I also picked up, but haven't read yet, they had 2 more